And welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael. And with me is someone who, if you are on Facebook or on social media, you have seen her. She is everywhere. She is amazing. And I feel like there's no real way to introduce her because she's so well known. And so I feel like I'm going to stop wasting people's time and give the floor over to medium Bianca Rose.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. And for those who, I don't know how they wouldn't know, but those that don't, could you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I am Medium Bianca Rose. I am an evidential medium and channel, born and raised here on Long Island. I travel all over the US, performing, doing gallery readings, one-on-one sessions. Also, I obviously work in the paranormal industry, so I do work with Long Island paranormal investigators here on Long Island as a medium, as well as learning, the ins and outs of all the scientific um, side of everything. But yeah, my biggest thing of all is a lot of people in the industry like to refer to me as a human Ouija board because the way I communicate with the other side since I was little is they take my hand and they make me write, like as if I am the planchette. So no pen, just hand on a surface. I am the Ouija board, I am the planchette. And they communicate through me. I'm literally a channel. So they tell me everything about the person in front of me, the past, the present, the future, how they passed, everything and anything you could possibly imagine, through my planchette like connection, as well as, all the clairs, hearing, seeing, feeling. But the biggest thing of all is this, and I've not met many other people, or anyone rather, who does what I do yet.
I have to say, of all the terms, evidential medium is a new one for me. So, what exactly do you mean when you say that?
So I like to call myself an evidential medium and a channel, and I do not like to use the word psychic. And the reason why I don't use the word psychic, even though I am a psychic medium, is because I give all of the credit to the other side. They are the ones who know everything, the past, the present, the future. I am literally their tool to use. They speak through me, they use me to bridge, the world of the living and the departed. I am just the middle ground. And the reason why I say evidential is because they are so precise. They will tell me who they are, how they passed, who their children are, who their grandchildren are, what's happening, what happened in the past. Every little detail that you could possibly imagine, they will go over everything. So I use the term evidential because I am giving the person in front of me the evidential knowing that this is their loved one, that we do indeed go on and that there is no end. And I give them those hardcore facts that you're just like, wow, like this is real.
That is really cool, and I like that term. That's a really cool term.
Yes, yes. I like to do that because it's all them, it's not me. I'm just the radio. I'm literally just the conduit for them to speak through.
Right, I was about to say, like in Reiki, we call it being the conduit.
Yeah.
Was this something you were born with, or did you find this later in life?
So ever since I was really little, they would take my hand and write. And growing up, it was quite terrifying. The things that I would experience, But since I was little, like, say I'm just sitting here out of nowhere, my hand typically will just start to trace, like, say say I'm sitting on the couch, all of a sudden my hand will just start to do like a figure eight or like a circle. And now that I'm older, as I've grown older, um, I've learned when my hand starts to do that, that means there's somebody around and they want to speak through me. But since I was little, that's kind of how it all started. When I was really young, I did mess with Ouija boards like any other kid. And then I learned that you actually don't need to purchase a Ouija board in a store. You could take a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard and write it out yourself and just like kind of take a quarter. Then I learned that I didn't need that at all. And I realized that I was doing something that other people weren't doing, that I am what they are talking through. And I could just put my hand on a surface and start to write as if I am the planchette. And I started to put everything together as I, got a little bit older and realized that I didn't need that they literally speak through me and what I'm doing is not normal and not most people get to do what I do.
And I love how you say every kid when they're growing up plays with the Ouija board, because I was like, nope, never played with one. And I was like, none of my friends did. Nobody I was around did. But I'm like, yeah, that must be a New Yorker thing.
Probably. I mean, not everyone, but I was the kid who did, only because I was growing up in quite the haunted house here on Long Island, and the things that we were experiencing that house, or I was experiencing, was out of control, scary. Um, I definitely probably made it worse by using a Ouija board and talking to anything and everything, Like I didn't have an intention, like where I sit down with a client nowadays, I have the intention of connecting to their loved ones. Back then as a kid, I was just opening up to whatever was around. And I definitely probably made our haunting 10 times worse.
So I'm kind of curious, growing up in the haunted house, did you think of the spirits as imaginary friends, or did you know them to be departed
I
spirits?
knew I knew they were departed. I knew they were departed. That house was insane. I could like make a movie. There should be a movie one day of that house. The stuff that I experienced in that home is something you typically would see on like the Travel Channel, like My Haunting or whatever. That's I lived it. I really lived it. It was crazy.
So, what's your favorite memory of the house, experience wise?
I don't think there is a favorite. It was traumatizing. It was scary. Um, because I was the target of the haunting, maybe because I am who I am, but my bed would shake at night, like light bulbs would explode in my face. But my mom they used to take her vegetable knives and hide them on the ledges of the doorways. All of her knives would go missing and they would stick them up on the ledges of the doorways. The channels would just change. Just crazy things. Crazy, crazy things. It was insane. I don't think there was a favorite moment. It was quite traumatizing as a kid. But now I look back on it and I could process it differently and kind of laugh about it. But it
Right,
was nuts. It was wild.
right. And when I was meaning favorite memory, I was meaning looking at it through today's eyes, not as the little kid going through it.
Um, I don't know. I mean, now that I'm older, I look back at it as all of that needed to happen. Everything had a purpose. It all had to unfold as it did so I could be where I am today, doing what I do for people all over the world. So now seeing it, I guess, from this perspective, I guess I wouldn't change a moment of it for anything because this is all made me who I am today. It's all connected, all of it has led me to where I am now.
And I love that you say that, because a lot of people are always like, oh, yeah, I want to go back in time and change this, this, this.
I would
And
not,
yeah, and I always say to people, if you do that, you're going to change who you are.
yeah, I would never change any of it because I really do believe that I had to experience some of the most horrifying things ever, but because it made me who I am today and it led to this moment.
So I'm curious, what made you decide at what point to go, I could use this in the paranormal field, and let me go join a team and start investigating?
Well, being that I experienced the things that I experienced as a kid, that's definitely always stuck with me. And I've always been very interested in the paranormal. So that's always been a thing. I did stepped back from it for many years, throughout like junior high and high school, because I started to learn that not everyone thought that that was cool, and a lot of people thought I was crazy. So I did kind of keep my mouth shut for a long, long time. Um, it was like the height of COVID. I turned 30, and I won a reading with a very famous medium Fleur. And because it was COVID times, she wasn't able to perform all over the world like she does. And I happened to win going live with her on Instagram. And thousands of people were watching this. At the end of the reading, the one thing I needed was that confirmation from the other side that this is real and that I can talk to the dead, essentially. And at the very end of the reading, my cousin was like, yeah, you can communicate with the other side, Bianca, and you're about to go on a really big journey. So from that moment forward, I was like, okay, this is it. It's time. Let's begin. And then somehow I came across Long Island Paranormal Investigators. I think I just saw like an ad pop up on Facebook one day in the middle of me starting my business just as a medium. And then that's when I incorporated the paranormal side into things because I started working with them. And I've learned so much from them when it comes to the scientific side of things. And then I was able to start incorporating the paranormal side into, more spiritual, lovey, like, medium side. And I combined the two. I have a lot of psychic medium friends all over the US, and a lot of them think I'm crazy for doing what I do in both sides. But I really love it. I love it so much because I get to go to these places that are haunted and I get to tell their story, versus where I go and do readings for families and they're able to, validate their loved ones and this, that, and the third. When it comes to these locations, they don't have loved ones coming to see them anymore because some of these places date back to the 1600s, the 1700s. So I'm the one who gets to go in and tell their story. And then we have the scientific equipment to back up my side of the story. So kind of all, intertwines. I love doing both. I love being there for the paranormal and for, families all over the world.
No, I agree. I think that's great that you do that. And as you're mentioning, going to locations and backing up your side of the story, have you ever been on location where they say, oh, we have this spirit and this is their story, and you leave going, nope, that's not the story. That's not even the spirit. And you really need to start telling this story instead.
Yeah, there's been quite a few times where I had to go in as a medium and they are so like, you know, persistent that a certain person passed a certain way or this happened, and I'm being told otherwise, and that I need to tell the truth, that I need to tell things for how it really was. And, I'll get that resistance from those people. Like, no, no, this is how it really happened. I'm like, well, the spirits are telling me otherwise. So, and they're the ones who know everything. Um, that doesn't change the perspective for the people who are here in the living, maybe the paranormal teams or whoever. Um, but I will do my best to try and prove it otherwise, to bring forward the truth, to bring forward that evidential information that these spirits really want to share. They want their story to be told right. So I've encountered it a few times.
So I'm curious, do they ever call you to come back after that contradiction, or are they like, nope, we're done with you and we're gonna stick with this story?
Um, no, I've had people, who are very resistant, and then I'll get a phone call or a message or something later on being like, "You'll never believe what we found out." And I'll get that just to validate you, Bianca, that what you were talking about is factual. So I will get that a little bit later on. I'm like, "Thank you. I really appreciate the validation. I do."
Well, I think it's nice that they share that with you because they could keep that information to themselves and be like, nope, we don't have to tell her she was right, and we'll just change the story and say, well, this is based on our evidence. So I think it's really nice that they tell you.
Definitely, definitely.
So, if you were to go on investigation, as you said, you have psychic medium friends all over. Who would be like your top three that you would want to go to investigate with?
So, my good friend who I met through Long Island Paranormal Investigator. She's my best friend, Shannon Collins. Some people know her as Velma. She's known as a few different things, the Queen of Darkness. She is my everything. I love her so much. She's very well known out there in the industry. She is a hot topic sometimes because of who she is and the things she does. I love her more than anything. We recently went away and we filmed for a show, Dark Echoes, and back to back we did that at a location. And then we drove through the night and went to another location, which was the Grand Midway Hotel. And I had some YouTuber friends of mine come out and we filmed the night there. And that was like the best weekend ever. We had so much fun. The first night was Mangus Mills, Kim's Crypt in Pennsylvania. And then the second night was the Grand Midway. The Grand Midway was my favorite night. I watched her get kind of pulled and thrown and dragged across the ground that night in the hotel. I've never seen something like that happen before to someone. I think the spirits were hazing her because it was a brothel at one point in time, and she looks really good. She's a model, so I think they were a little, I don't know, maybe they were on edge because she's a threat. I don't know. But I watched her get thrown to the ground and dragged a little bit down the hallway. Like her face was imprinted in the rug. And then we had Poltergeist activity that night. We had such a great weekend. I love traveling with her and doing investigations with her. She's the other half to me. She's amazing. So she's my number one, and she always will be.
And full transparency is Shannon's been on my show, and she was the one who said you need to get Medium Bianca on your show.
Of course. I love her so much. She's amazing.
She is.
Yeah.
So who are his
There's
2 and 3?
So 2 and 3. I recently dragged. So there's another medium that I recently became good friends with. I just dragged her over to the dark side into the paranormal industry. She's a psychic medium in New Jersey, and she has quite the follow. She's known as a psychic medium, but more recently, I've introduced her to the dark side of things and brought her into the paranormal industry. And I happened to somehow drag her off to Tennessee maybe 3 months ago in March. And I somehow dragged her to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary and the old Harriman Hospital in Tennessee. And that was a whole new world to her. Um, Coolest investigations ever. And now she's, slowly flowing into this side of things as well. She's incorporating both, but I really love her and I would love for her to come out on more investigations. She's such a great time. Her name's Danielle Taverna, if I'm saying that correctly. Please don't kill me, Danielle. But she's fantastic. And the experiences at those two places were quite amazing, especially, I don't think a lot of people know about the old Harriman Hospital in Tennessee. That place is insane. I've never experienced so many disembodied voices before in one evening. It was it was wild. I suggest everyone to go there. I don't think many people know about that place. That place is amazing when it comes to the paranormal and what's happening there. It's pretty wild. So she's number 2. Um, Number 3, I don't know. I gotta think about that. I'm friends with so many people all over. Who have I not investigated? I recently did a lot of networking this past weekend. I was at Penhurst Asylum, the really big Paracon, and I met a lot of people. Actually, and the weekend before that, Whitehill Mansion Paracon, and there's quite a few people that I need to collab with. I would love to investigate with Mary Jo. And Heather Taddy, I recently was connecting with her. We spoke about how we would love to work together in the near future. Um, there's a few other people that I spoke to that I would love to network with and go forward with. There's so many people that I need to, you know, branch off and connect with. And as Medium Bianca Rose, I have the honor of working with everyone in this industry. So I will definitely make my rounds. I'm getting there. I can only travel so much. I'm literally on the road probably every weekend.
That amazes me. You are like everywhere.
I am. I'm very tired. I just came from doing an event here on Long Island. I had a private house party that someone booked to have me come to their home this evening. So it's just like one thing after another.
Well, thank you for doing that, and hopefully you'll be able to relax some during this.
Somewhere along the way I will.
So Thomas Dowling is wanting to know, how was Pennhurst?
It was fantastic this year. Last year was a little disorganized, so I was a little concerned how this year would have played out. It was so good. It was fantastic. There was so many people who attended. I didn't have the honor of investigating the property. I was too busy as Medium Bianca Rose doing reading after reading after reading for 2 days straight. I can't even tell you how many people I read. I had such a wait list that I wasn't even capable of getting to everybody who came out to see me. Um, but the turnout was immense, and it was well above and beyond like beautiful this year. It was so good.
Talking about doing the galleries, because I've witnessed a few, and the one thing that always makes me curious is when you get someone and they don't want to accept it or even acknowledge it's theirs. Do you let it go then, or are you like some of the others who will just keep on pushing and pushing until they say, "Oh, that is mine"?
So I didn't do a gallery reading there, but I do gallery readings. At Pennhurst, I was doing individual. So I was offering session after session after session. But when I do a gallery reading, I approach things a little bit different than other people. In the industry, I know some mediums will stand there on stage and kind of like try to figure out like, oh, I've got this person and try to place them. I don't do it that way. While I stand on stage, I I scan the room, I feel who I'm pulled to. Then I ask that person, do you like I ask them for permission. Do I have full permission to give you a reading? Typically I'll say, can I read you? And are you open to everything and anything? I want that permission. And then I begin with them and I go in, I start doing what I do and I just start talking to all of their people, whoever they have on the other side. And then when I'm done, I move to the next person in the audience that I'm drawn to. And again, I will ask them, do you have my permission? Or do I have your permission rather? And are you open to everything and anything? And then I'll begin with them and I will start to connect to all of their loved ones. And I will pull forward as many people that I could possibly find on the other side. I will not stop until I pull every single person forward. So say it's like mom and grandma and her sister and. So that's how I do it. I do it a little bit different than other people.
I like your way better because to me, when you're sitting there and somebody says, "So who drives the truck?" and they're like, "I don't know. Nobody drives the truck."
Me,
And they're
that's
like,
too
"No, I'm
vague.
seeing this truck." And it's like, dude, let it go. They don't have it. And it's like everyone
That's
else is feeling slated.
that's too vague. I want it to be hard facts. I want it to be evidential. So I will scan the audience and go to that one person, get their permission to begin with them, and then I go in and I start talking to all of their people. And I want that evidential information. I want to know who I'm talking to, first of all, how they passed, what children they still have in the living, maybe which ones are on the other side, who their grandkids are. I want everything. This way, the person in front of me knows this is real. This is real. And that we do go on, that there is no end. There is another side.
Right. And so how do you at the end of the day say, okay, guys, enough. Medium Bianca Rose is closed for the night.
That's literally
Let's.
what I say. I was just driving home and like my brain was still going so much and I was still hearing all this chatter and I'm like, I'm checking out for tonight. I'll say, thank you so much. Say, at the end of tonight's event, I say thank you so much for allowing me to be the bridge. It is such an honor. Truly, like I am blessed, but it's time for you to go back to the other side. It's time for you to leave me alone. But thank you. Like I am so grateful. And then when it comes to my everyday life, um, I typically have the choice. I open up and I shut down. That doesn't always mean that I'm going to be okay and that I'm not going to be bothered or I'm not going to bring something home because those moments do happen and weird things do happen, you know. But for the most part, I try to, like, this is it. I'm closed. Signing off here. No more for today. Like, this isn't happening. But my house is really active. There's a lot of weird stuff in my house that I live in currently. So it's always a wild ride here, but I try to keep it turned off. It just, there's never a guarantee, especially in my life. There's never a guarantee.
Right. And Thomas Dowling is saying you should come to, I think that's Eloise in Westland. I'm thinking Michigan. Not
Yeah,
sure.
I haven't been there. That's the second time someone said that to me this week about how I should go out there. I haven't had the honor of going yet. So if someone wants to invite me, please do. I will absolutely come. Um, but no, I haven't gone yet and I would love to.
And so we have a Lynn Monet who's apparently new to the paranormal or maybe new to my show. She just says, I'm new.
Okay.
And if you'd love to be a guest on my show, just message me on Facebook, Lynn, and I'll be happy to get in touch. Oh, she says, no, I'm an international author. Okay. Apologies, I didn't recognize your name. Um, sure. Hit me up on Facebook, Michael Newcoff, and we'll be in touch. And she was asking if you could scan her. Now, I totally leave that up to you. I don't, because I know that's your work and that's,
Oh,
your,
so
yeah.
you can message me privately if you'd like. I literally just came from a house party. So I've been doing like readings after readings after readings. So I am at a cap for today, especially because I just came from Penhurst Asylum and performed for 2 days straight. And then tomorrow I'll be doing readings all day out of a Starbucks. And then Friday I will be performing at the Bellport Brewery here on Long Island all evening. Um, so Bianca has kind of checked out for the evening, but by all means, absolutely, follow me on Facebook or Instagram or reach out to me. You could just type in Medium Bianca Rose on Google and I will pop right up and you could reach out to me for us to connect if you'd like. Only because I am the best way to describe it after channeling for hours is drunk. It's like you get this
Right.
weird, it's like feeling drunk. That's the best
Yeah,
way to
you're in a
describe it.
euphoric state and it's like, yeah, or
Exactly.
zoned.
Had a few drinks, or as if you smoked a joint. That's the best way to describe it after channeling for hours.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I'll leave it to your discretion because I don't want to say no for you and you're like, oh, I would have, but I also
Yeah,
understand
I'm
being
like
tired.
still
Yeah,
hot. I'm like hot and on fire right now, still from all the work.
yeah. So when people like reach out to you, and do you ever get the feeling like, so what you're actually wanting to know is this? It's not the question that you're asking, and do you go there, or do you stick to the questions that they're asking?
I don't let people ask me questions typically. Maybe at the very end. So at the very end of the reading, I'll go, Oh, like right before I wrap things up, like when I'm done, I'll be like, do you have any questions? Is there anything you need to ask me before we end this? But I don't let them ask questions because there's no need to. I just ask in the very beginning, are you open to everything and anything? And I go over everything and anything. I will go over the other side will go over everything. So they'll go over, maybe the passing of loved ones. Then they'll talk about the person in front of me, like their life, the past, the present, the future. They'll talk about their career. They'll talk about their love life. We'll talk about pets who could be on the other side as well with them. We go over every little topic that you could possibly think of. Typically, at the end of a reading, there is no questions because we have talked about everything that you could possibly imagine in that time frame. In 15 minutes, I could probably go over an entire person's life in 15 minutes. At these big events, I offer 15 and 30-minute sessions. I could get so much out in 15 minutes. It's ridiculous, which is why I allow people to record their sessions. When I have someone sitting with me in person, I always make sure all of my clients have their phone charged and they record the session because so much is said in that 15 minutes or that 30-minute duration. And in an hour, that's just, it's a lot. And I have to slow down just to make sure I have enough to talk about an hour because it's so fast, so much. Um, Normally, no one has any questions when I'm done. And if they do, it's like kind of retouching on something that we already went over.
And so I'm kind of curious because this is something out of my personal experience. Have you ever done a reading where someone you said, record it and they go home and they go, it didn't record?
Yes, absolutely. So I just got an email yesterday. One of the clients who came to see me at Penhurst Asylum, they recorded the entire session. Um, Her session was the one session that was a little bit different than other people's sessions. I spoke to her loved ones and did all the things that I usually do. But what happened was while I was in the reading, I saw myself, or they showed me, stepping out the front door of this person's home, going to the right of the property is these woods. And it was really unsettling. And I was like going deeper and deeper into this. And what I found in the woods was something similar to, or definitely, a skinwalker. I've never had a skinwalker come up in a reading before. It was really interesting. And the reading was going over all sorts of crazy things, specifically the skinwalker situation. She messaged me the next day going, my entire recording is gone. It's not even in the trash. It just disappeared. And I was like, well, honestly, I'm not surprised because your reading was very different compared to other people. And we talked about some really strange things. So I'm not surprised that it just vanished. Um, so that happened literally this weekend. But then there's other scenarios where I will do, like, say, a house party and I'm doing reading, and I tell them, watch your phone. You never know what spirit could do. I've seen on numerous occasions where all of a sudden the recording just stops 10 minutes in and the client doesn't even realize till the very end. And I'm like, wow, your entire recording did not just record. So there's more, there's a lot of similar instances like that. But this one over the weekend was different. I think the whole skinwalker thing, that reading went really darkish, but we were comfortable with it. The client was comfortable with it. We were very open about the whole thing. She's used to it, and the whole family they're aware of their situation. But I'm not surprised that hers just vanished because of the severity of things that we were speaking on.
Yeah. Mine was like a year's worth of readings with someone. I mean, a lot of little cassette tapes. And whenever I would go back to play the cassette tapes, they were completely blank. Never, not even the I'm so and so, I'm doing this for so and so. It was like every ounce of it was white.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That happens. It's really interesting what the other side could do. And I don't know why some of them do that sometimes. It's just, I don't know,
Yeah.
spirit's funny sometimes. They just think they're hilarious.
And what was funny is I even asked the spirits one time, I said, why did you wipe every single one of those? And they go, well, because it was for the moment and they'll come back when needed. And I ended up throwing it away because I was like, why am I saving these blank tapes for
Yeah, yeah.
years?
It's interesting that that happens every single time to you. Are you always in the same place when you do the recording?
We were, yes, that we were at her place in her little office,
Maybe
and
it's
it was
just
her
the,
equipment.
I don't know, maybe it's just the amount of souls that are there since she's always channeling in the same place.
My parents would go. We'd do like back to back, and my parents' tapes would work, but mine would never work.
Then
It
it's
was the
just a you,
strangest.
it's just a you thing.
Yeah. So, what was it like, though? Seeing the Skinwalker. Oh, I mean,
So it presented itself as a big buck, like a deer. It just, you know, they shapeshift. I was
well,
trying to explain to her that, whatever is there was something. Typically, it's a shaman that goes like rogue, dabbling way too much in the dark arts, like going deep, doing things that they shouldn't have been doing, and they just went deep into the other side, kind of. That's typically what a skinwalker is. Um, but what happened was it was really like something is just pure evil over there in the woods, is what they showed me. They talked about the big buck out in the woods. And then we also discussed how another time there was just an entire set of bones from a deer wiped completely clean. Not an ounce of blood, skin, flesh, nothing. Trigger warning. um, and it was like bizarre and it was just laid so perfectly. And what's happening is, that's not the only thing that's going on. I think it's like kind of calling in, um well, first of all, she is very sensitive to the other side, and she kind of reminded me of myself, in tune with, loved ones and normal spirits, so to say, but also the darker side of things. And she was it was like this big question: is it the house that all these spirits just keep gravitating? And I'm like, no, you are like me, you are like a bug zapper. And what's happening is things that are passing in the area, it's like, oh shit, there she is, and they're just coming to her, you know. But I noticed that a lot with I know the paranormal industry notices that a lot with skinwalkers. It's not just skinwalkers going on. You've got all these other strange things, UFO stuff happening, spirit stuff happening, and that tends to be what's happening on her land, in her home, everything. It's like everything weird that you could possibly think of. And I guess it's because of the whole Skinwalker situation. I feel like do they gravitate all that other stuff? It's like one big vortex. It's very
right.
interesting.
When you put it that way, it's like what was going through my mind is going, could the Skinwalker be like a guardian that's keeping the darker stuff at bay, saying, no, chill, and be like keeping the area semi clear and being like, hey, you guys stay back, not cool, and keeping her actually at bay so she doesn't get trapped.
You never know. I've had my own weird personal experience once when it comes to skinwalkers, and I do wonder if maybe they like maybe some individuals more so than other individuals. And I am not an expert with cryptids whatsoever. That is not my thing. Honestly, that stuff frightens me. Like, it really scares me. I'm kind of terrified of all the cryptids, even though I have to work with this stuff because I work in the paranormal industry. But that stuff scares me. Okay, anything that's like crawling along the floor on four arms, like that stuff is I'm good. I don't want to deal with it. I'll deal with it if I have to deal with it. I'm, I'm a girl who talks to the dead. I like to talk to the spirits. But I have one experience that has to do with skinwalkers. I love going for these float sessions. If anyone knows what that is, it's like where you spend a very extended amount of period of time in a deprivation tank in water. and I will go for 90-minute sessions. And I had a really, really profound experience where I won't go into the long story, but at one point during my visions, a skinwalker showed up and they were explaining to me that I am not a threat to them and that I shouldn't be afraid of them. It was really weird. I have no idea why that came to me in my vision. And I was like, okay, but like stay away from me. It was really cool. I don't know. I have it all written down and I don't have that book with me right now, but it was quite the experience because that's not something I want to dabble with. But I do wonder, my biggest thing was like maybe skinwalkers, especially aliens. I know this with aliens, like do they gravitate more to psychic mediums because of who we are and how we connect to the other side? Are we okay? Like we're cool compared to other people, you know what I mean?
Right.
I have a lot of
Yeah, I totally
questions.
get that.
I have so much to learn when it comes to that, and I do have quite a few questions because I've had some interesting experiences. Um, that one-time thing with skinwalkers in a vision, in a float tank. It was really weird.
Right. Well, and I find it interesting too because, like you were saying with the skinwalkers, they're people who turned to the dark through the magic and became the skinwalker. Is, we assume being paranormal investigators, once you're a skinwalker, always a skinwalker, and you're always going to be the rogue bad. And just like we're finding out with the ETs, there's rogue, there's good, there's bad. Could the skinwalkers actually, once you become a skinwalker, say 100 years later, going, I'm still a skinwalker, but I've kind of lost that charge that made me create this, and I'm stuck in this form, but maybe I can use it for good.
Maybe. Just like people, there's good people, there's bad people. I could totally see that when it comes to cryptids, any type of cryptid, I mean, because we label things a specific way all the time, so maybe that flows with that, with certain cryptids as well,
Right, because I mean, like an example of another one is like the dog man. It's like most cases I hear the dog man is he's just chasing you, and people are scared because there's this man with a dog head chasing me. I would be like going, heck, I think I'm gonna go the other way too, but who knows what you were going towards that maybe was more dangerous, and he was like a protective spirit saying, no, don't go there.
Maybe.
And we're assuming because he looks ferocious, he's ferocious and mislabeling him.
Who knows? All I know is I get frightened by some of those things. I don't know.
For me, I was talking on an interview earlier, and we were talking about haunted dolls and buildings and stuff, and I was like, oh hell no. I was like, that's my answer when I walk into a room unexpected. I'm like, oh hell no.
That's my favorite. I love haunted dolls.
And that's what I love about the paranormal field is everyone's different. It's and I totally think it's cool that that's your favorite. But for me, it's like it's the exact opposite of cryptids. To me, I find interesting. Do I want to hang out with them? No, but they're interesting. Whereas for you, it's like nope.
Yeah, I'm kind of terrified of cryptids only because, especially aliens, I have had some profound experiences with that. And that's where I'm going to counter back to, is it because I'm a psychic medium? Do they come and connect to me because I'm different? Because think about it, I telepathically, technically, speak to spirits. I communicate with them on a different level. I could talk to these beings in a whole different way than your normal average person. So is that why I tend to have weird experiences where I encounter these alien-like creatures that terrify me and I want nothing to do with it? I don't want to be a believer of it, but it's real. That stuff is real, and it's so scary. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want anything to do with it. When it comes to haunted objects, items, dolls, I love that stuff. But then again, I love speaking to spirits. I like that. That's my job. That's my
Right.
job.
Right. It's just, to me, what freaks me out is looking at this like porcelain face, and when the eyes are missing, but it looks like they're still there, and feeling like you're being watched by something. And I think what it really is the vessel dolls, where that really truly creep me out, where there's something inside the doll that's watching, and then it's like I can't figure out what it is, and I'm like, that's what gets me, like the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, going, "What are you? Who are you?"
So I have quite the collection that you would probably be terrified of. I've had I literally have quite the collection. I have quite a few that have been sent to me from all over the world. Um, Plus, it's not just dolls. I have various things. Um, but I have quite the collection, and you would be terrified, I guess.
Maybe.
I love it. I love it. I really love it. I have some really cool, interesting items, but I don't believe that those entities that are attached to these items are stuck inside it and are never leaving. Sometimes it goes quiet. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they go God knows where, and then they come back again. I believe they're attachments. I do have one item though where this thing is literally definitely inside it. It is not a soul. It was never a soul like you and I. This is something that's more dark and evil. I acquired this doll from Rogers Mansion here on Long Island, which is the Southampton History Museum. And the thing that is inside this doll is it's evil. It's not good, and it's not human, and it calls itself Desiderius, which means the in between, the yearning, the loss, the suffering. Recently this week, I'm like, I'm gonna call you Desi. I bring it with me to shows. I should definitely probably put this doll in like a glass case with some like holy water and stuff. I travel with this thing not in a case, and I probably should because of some of the things that I have had to encounter on my road trips while having this doll with me. I literally watched when I went to Salem ParaCon last fall. I got myself a fresh cup of Starbucks that I was dying for. I get to the parking lot to go begin at the show, and I watched my cup of Starbucks like lift up and get thrown across the car, and I know it was that thing. I know it was that thing, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? I was dying for that cup of coffee, and I know it did that on purpose. It is a really interesting being, but I have to be so careful and try not to like piss it off. And I talk about it, and I talk about the things that it's capable of doing when I go to these shows. And I have to be like so careful. I really need to get a case for that one. But that one is not human versus some of the other items that I have that have actual souls that like to come and go. They come and visit the item because that item once belonged to them. So there is a difference. There's different things that I've acquired.
All right. Yeah, and if it threw my coffee, I'd be like, "That's it. You're done on road trips, man." Nope.
Yeah, yeah. And my boyfriend was there for that. He got to witness it. We were both just staring at each other like, no way. Like, no way did that just happen.
The other thing too is, I would say your takeaway from that should be next time, don't hesitate to drink it.
Now I'm very careful. On the road trip this past weekend to Penhurst, I got the coffee, and when I went to put it into the cup holder, the lid came right off, and I almost dropped it. And I looked in the back seat. I'm like, no, no, no. Do not do this again. Do not mess with my coffee again.
Yeah. I think what worries me about dolls is going to sleep where they're like sitting in a chair and then waking up in a daze and it's standing on my chest and being like, no, that's not cool.
Luckily, that does not happen in my house, although in my bedroom is where I keep them all in these beautiful antique cabinets from the 1900s, and they are all there watching me while I am sleeping. I give them cat balls, which are proximity sensors, the balls that you could like
Right.
light up. I leave those with all of the items. This way I could monitor, like, say 2 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden just one of them is lighting up. I've watched some really interesting things happen in my room, where it would literally go, the one would light up, the second it stops, it jumps to the next, and then it jumps to the next and jumps to the next. I've watched some really cool stuff happen, and I'll try my best to document these things and everything. I really should set up like a full running surveillance system to constantly monitor this, which is on my list to do. Just I need some extra cash, people. Um, but I haven't had anything crazy like that happen yet. I have watched proximity sensor balls get thrown, across the room from my items. I've watched that. And then there's other activity where things just get crazy, like really crazy. Um, but I don't know if it only pertains to my items, because I do live across the street from the St. George Manor, which is an old plantation for slaves. So I'm living on slave grounds. And I do believe that whatever is happening in this home goes beyond my collection that I've brought into the house, because we've had activity begin prior to these items and these dolls. But no walking dolls yet in this house, at least.
So I'm curious with the cat balls because I've witnessed this now twice. Because we know how they go off and then they sit there for a little bit and then they'll go off again. Have you ever had it sequentially like 3 or 4 times going off to like the second it stops, it starts up
Yeah,
again?
absolutely. There'll be periods of time where some of my lights, it'll just keep going and going and going and going and going. And I'll be like, can you stop now? And then it'll stop. I'm like, can you do it again? And then it'll light up. I get it to go, like, I'll get them to go on command sometimes. It's really
Have you
cool.
ever have you ever tried the mag light test with them?
No, no offense to anybody out there in the industry. I personally do not believe the flashlight to be legit. Okay. Unless it's a button that you're clicking and, turning on and off, like having the spirits click it on and click it off. I believe when you slowly unscrew the flashlight, what's happening is it's heating up and cooling down, heating up and cooling down, causing the light to turn on and to turn off. So personally, I don't believe that to be a legit scientific piece of equipment to communicate with spirits, because I believe that it is heating up and cooling down, causing it to relight and turn off over and over. Unless you give me a flashlight that we could press down and you're literally pressing the button, then we got some real paranormal stuff going on.
No, I totally understand, and yeah, it's one of those. I guess it's personal choice, if you want to use it or not. But I'm also noticing, and it hasn't missed me of this episode, that you grew up in a haunted house and now live in a haunted house.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life is just one giant haunted house. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I am kind of there's a lot. There's a lot going on here. It does go beyond my collection. I do live across the street from the slave plantation, and what we're experiencing here is beyond, my own stuff. So, I don't know. My childhood house that was a really bad haunting. Um, the things that I experienced in that house, maybe because I was so much younger then, it seemed even worse, but it was pretty bad. It was kind of out of control. It all leads to something great. It does. But that was pretty nuts. Um, in this house, it does get creepy. It does. We get like footsteps. I'll see things, knock over, knocking, lights flickering, turning on and off. There's something not so great, I think, in the basement, which, counters back to the plantation across the street. Um, Sometimes disembodied voices. I'm actually having Long Island paranormal investigators come and do an investigation with me this June, the weekend of Father's Day. I'm doing a big event here with them to go deeper into this because it has gotten kind of out of control. And I literally do house clearings as a service. I help people get rid of things that shouldn't be in their home. I do that as my job. Um, what's happening though is I can't get rid of it here in this house. And I've tried on an array of occasions to try and get rid of. That was a police officer going very fast. I'm in my car, everyone, by the way. I just came back from a big event. Anyway, so I can't get rid of whatever's in this house. I've tried numerous times, so I have Long Island paranormal investigators coming to help me figure out how deep this is going. Now, the reason why I've called them in is because I can't get rid of it. And I really believe wholeheartedly that whatever is in this house killed our dog this past summer. And I have evidential proof to back it up. I left a recorder on the 2 days following our dog's passing, and I caught this entity, which I've caught this entity numerous times. It has a very deep, dark voice, and it said victims. Now, the reason why it said victims, because not only has it taken our dog from us, it took our 2-year-old cat from us within a year of moving into this house, and both in our half finished basement. It's just crazy stuff, and I believe that it's literally preying on my family, and I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. So I've called them in to help me, and we're doing a full overnight investigation here in June.
Well, my serious condolences on the loss of your 2 pets. I know that sucks.
Yeah. For a while, like the reason why I could tell you it's paranormal, especially for our last fur baby Zeus, is because I brought him to so many doctors and they couldn't find anything wrong with him. Blood work, perfect. They said he was negative for, all cancers. Everything came back good. And what happened was all of a sudden he started to experience crazy seizures, one after another. It was going on for months, these seizures. Out of nowhere, it just stopped. He started to lose weight so fast to the point that he was a walking skeleton, and then his head began to cave in because it started to go after his brain mass. And it ended really badly. I had to help him cross over to the other side because he wouldn't die. My poor baby, he would not give up. He would not give up. But I had to help him cross over. And I really wanted to know if he made it to the other side the day after his passing. So I left the recorder on and I asked the other side, can you please let me know that he made it? And a woman's voice came through and she said, he's with us. He's here on the other side. The following day on the recorder, the dark thing that I've caught in this house a few times, it said victims, like really deep. And that's when I knew, like, you took my dog. You took my dog. So
Yeah.
So I've processed this. I'm able to talk about this so calmly. It's been a shit show. But I'm working on it. I'm gonna fix this.
No, I totally understand and feel for you. And it was funny how the universe, I like to say how the universe works, because I was just about to ask you, do you ever have in your house that's haunted spirits that you have to remove because they act out? And you go
Yeah.
right into that story right as I'm about to ask that.
Yeah. I mean, there's other stuff too, but whatever that thing is, that thing has been here for a long time. I've caught it on numerous occasions, like recording it. And like we'll hear it sometimes, like audibly. and just all sorts. I could tell you so many stories of the weird. Things get weird here. I like the other spirits that I have here, the ones that are tied to some of my items. They're great. They're fantastic. I don't mind having that in the house. But then there's that, and that needs to go.
Right. And I like how you put that because that is an important distinction for people who want to allow the spirits, to maybe try and connect more with them. Is, you can pick and choose who resides in your space. You don't have to allow all or none, but there
Yeah.
is choice.
I do explain that often to clientele, like for especially when I come across people who are gifted and who have the gift themselves to be able to connect to the other side. I always explain you need to make sure that you know how to open up properly and you know how to shut down properly. And intention is everything. You want to be very specific of what you're calling in. You can't just talk to anything because there might be something really dark kind of nearby, and all of a sudden you just called that thing to your house. So it's very important to be very knowledgeable and very specific on what you're connecting to, how to open up properly, how to shut down properly. Intention is everything, and boundaries is everything. It doesn't always mean that you're going to be safe and okay and secure. Obviously, I bring weird things home all the time. Typically, when I do bring home weird things, I'm able to get rid of it. But then you could run into situations where you can't get rid of it, and now you need help from others. And thank goodness in my world, I have a lot of connections and a lot of good friends of people who could step forward to give me a hand.
Right. And I love that about the paranormal community when that gets together.
Yes.
And one thing also I wanted to share was, and curious of your thoughts around this, is just, to have your guards up, and your shield, we call them shields in the metaphysics, have your protection up, but because it's a loved one, don't let your guard or your protection down because it may not be your loved one. It could be
Yeah.
something posing as
Yeah.
thinking, oh, you're going to allow me in because I'm so and so,
Yeah.
and that's my invitation.
Absolutely. The spirit world knows everything. You could begin to talk to something, they know everything. They could portray themselves as, someone you love. They could talk about your life. They could talk about their life because things on the other side, they know everything. They know every little thing that you could possibly imagine as long as, you allow them to talk to you. So, it's very important to be very careful and intention is everything. It really is. But like I said, it doesn't always mean everything's gonna be okay.
Right. I agree. And Thomas Dowling is wanting to know with the dark entity, did you ever ask it what it may want?
Its purpose is probably to kill everybody in this house. That's definitely its purpose. As dark and as crazy as that sounds, that's what it wants. That's what that dark stuff wants. They want to, they want to take over. They want to they want to cause chaos. They want to destroy things. They want to cause havoc. That's the stuff they feed off of. I don't this and what I have in my house is not a demon. I could tell you that right now. This is not a demon. Um, I do question what specifically is, this thing that is here. I don't know if it's just something dark that formed from, this plantation that's right here, or if it's something more that I just attracted. I recently had a week where I became not okay and I was having a lot of dreams. Like literally this is like maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or so. A lot of dreams about Jen and the things that I encountered and dreamed about and the things that I heard and experienced kind of made me feel like we may have a djinn in the house. Which in that case, if that is the case, it doesn't mean it wants to kill us. So I could be dealing with two things right now. I could have this djinn,
Right.
and I could have this darker thing that just really wants to destroy everything in the house. When it comes to the djinn, it wants what? Jewelry, food, it wants cigarettes, it wants to smoke, it wants to be pampered, it wants to be lavished and everything, and it could be using, me as its meal ticket. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does.
Okay. Um, there's like layers of shit going on here. And then there's this other thing which I don't know. It's caused a lot of chaos. I know its purpose is to probably collect victims. It took our cat like maybe a year into the home while we were in Florida, in Disney World of all places. I get a phone call that my cat was found dead. There's no reason at all in the house by the caretakers who were taking care of the pets and everything. No rhyme or reason, just dead. And it was a baby too. It was like it was 2 years old. And then Zeus, and then I noticed other crazy things. I could tell you stories on stories on stories of the things that we experience here, and it does go after. I notice it goes after us. It wants to go after us. So
Yeah.
I have to get rid of this thing. That is my intention. But the thing is, I keep going. I don't let it stop me. I keep going. I keep doing my job. I keep performing. I keep helping people. I keep my household going. And I've kept my kids very safe. I do have little ones in the house. Um, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to keep all of the pets safe.
Right. And what's interesting too is I don't know why, but I keep hearing as we're talking about this going Amityville. Isn't Amityville in New York?
It is. It is.
Amityville. And I'm
So
like, it's not Amityville's level, but maybe it's a warning of if you do leave it go unchecked
get
and
out
don't
there.
have it.
So luckily, I do not own this house. I've been renting out here for a good 7 years. Um, it was like 2015 when I came out here and started renting for my landlord. I haven't always been in this house. I lived a few blocks over in a different house of his. He owns multiple houses. And when I had my last daughter, the house got too small a few blocks over, and I moved into this house, which is also his, because I needed more bedrooms, more room. And the funny thing is, when we lived in that other house, 3, 4 blocks over, there was activity in that house as well. Like pretty crazy activity. You would hear stomping coming up the stairs that the wall would shake in my bedroom and no one would be on the stairs. My kids were babies in that house. So it wasn't my children. And my one dog, he would sit in my room and just growl, staring out into the hallway, like just growl into the darkness in that
Yeah.
house. So it was in that house too. And what I've noticed is my team, Long Island Paranormal Investigators, have actually had to come out over here to the area more than once to a few of the houses that are dealing with hauntings. So I do really believe that this is going right back to what's here is the, St. George Manor, the plantation. And also on the other side of me, I have the William Floyd Estate, which is one of the oldest estates ever here on Long Island, which is also extremely historical. So I'm not surprised that this is happening,
Yeah.
And then there's me. I'm a giant bug zapper. I'm just attracting everything.
Right. And Thomas Dowling and I had the same thought at the same time of maybe it has something against the landlord since it's his properties. And maybe he invited something in without knowing it and he has to remove it.
I don't know if my landlord would even be open to that conversation. I hardly even talk to that guy. Like, there's pretty much zero communication unless I need something, which is very rare. I usually take care of everything myself.
Right.
I don't know if it's him. I mean,
But
This
it
is
could explain why you can't get rid of it because your methods aren't working because you're not the one who brought it in. So
maybe,
maybe reach out to his higher self and say, "Hey, can we have permission to remove this?" And
maybe.
bypass him and see if that works.
I mean, I should reach out now. I've been told by the neighbors all sorts of weird things about this house and some of the horrific things that have happened in this house. So I don't know. Whatever is here, it's been here. Like there was another tenant who rented here and he had a whole bunch of dogs outside, like puppies. I guess he was breeding them or something. And he left all of the puppies outside to die in this yard. So I'm noticing like multiple weird stories around animals and death here that neighbors have told me about this home. There's just a lot of weird. I don't know. It's too much weird.
Maybe they don't like animals.
Who knows? I don't know.
You know,
Whatever
that
it
could
is, it
be.
needs to be.
They may not like the animals because the animals can see more than we can see and are more in
Probably.
tune than we are. So they're a bigger threat.
Also, no, also, I love them. It's gonna go after everything that I love. I believe that's the intention behind that. Like we're gonna go after the things you love. We're going to take away all the things that you love first. We're going to slowly break everything down. I don't know. It's a whole monster in itself.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I just realized we're at an hour and 13 minutes. So
Okay.
I didn't mean to go so far over the hour because I know you are tired and wanting to rest.
Thank you. It's somewhat here.
So to wrap it up, what it would be, I like to ask this of all my guests is out of your life's experiences, doesn't have to be paranormal. In your case, it probably will be. I'll just say because you're like me, grew up in it. What would
Yeah.
be a golden nugget that you would want to leave with everyone that watches this episode?
A golden nugget. What does
Meaning,
the
it's
golden pertain to?
so a golden nugget means like if I was to say, you know, through my experiences, I learned that you can't please everyone. So put yourself first. That's okay. It's not selfish to put yourself first and to grow. So something you've learned basically through your life's experiences that you would want to share with others.
So through my life experiences,
Right.
I have definitely learned. I have quite the history. I'm 34, but I feel like I have lived a million lifetimes with the amount of things that I've lived through in my life. And with that being said, I have, there's a lot of people who really know my history, okay, and I have lived through some very sad things, some very heavy things. But I do believe that for anyone out there who is a medium, who is a psychic, okay, I'm noticing a pattern for not just me, but for a bunch of us, that people like us have to go through some of the most heaviest of darkest things throughout our lifetime. So when we finally get to where we are now, as a psychic, as a medium, whether you're working with the public or not, you'll finally understand everything. I believe that we have to go through pain and suffering and build this dictionary so we could understand suicide, murder, overdoses, depression, some of the heaviest things that you could possibly imagine. So when we finally get to where we are now, for when I get to where I am now, I can sit with people here in the living and on the other side, and I have this dictionary and I can understand not only as a psychic medium, but as a person, all of these things. I could relate to all of these things so I could help so many people here in the living on the other side. So I find it often that people like me, people like us, for anyone who is watching this, that we have to go through some of the most darkest, scariest shit ever. So one day we could finally make it to here, if we make it to here, where we are now, so we could help so many people on a whole different level. That's what I have learned throughout this entire life, that there was a big reason behind all of it, so I could stand where I am now and have the honor of doing what I do today.
Well, thank you. And I agree. And so I'm going to close this out with saying thank you to the chat room. Thank you to Bianca, because I know you only had Shannon's experience with my show and saying you should be on. So thank you for accepting the invitation. And I'm going to say good night, good day, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Make it a beautiful day. Share your light. And like Bianca said, where we are today, who we are today, is forged through what we've gone through. So be the way shower for those that are coming up through what we went through, and let them know that there's hope, that it's not all going to end in the bad down and be down about things, that there is light and joy at the end. So be the way shower for the next generation. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.